always makes me giggle. Okay, so hey guys, this is Tea with Chi. You know this. Today we're having a very interesting conversation about what has been happening in our world today, and I guess you could say it's like a political and societal issue.
Yeah.
Um, so you want to go ahead and introduce who we have on the episode this.
Well, we should introduce ourselves on the show first.
Oh, yeah. Who am I? Uh, I'm literally nobody, but my name is Sochi, aka Chi, and I have, of course, my best friend, one of my favorite people, and co-host, and that's Michael Hill. Say hi, Michael. What's up?
Hello.
And then, so who do we have on the pod this week?
Yeah, so this week we've got Nadia Christine Duggin, who's a good friend of mine. She's an amazing singer who's worked with all kinds of artists, and she's all in that whole scene. She's also a dancer. Yeah, and we just talk about the crazy stuff that's been happening. I guess it's probably more political than mostly what we tend to talk about, but
Right. Yeah.
it's kind of what's going on.
Yeah, it's a little focused. So we're gonna talk about couple things. Well, mainly we talk about what do they call it? The insurrection at the Capitol.
Yeah, insurrection, riots,
The riots at the Capitol. And yeah, I think it's a good conversation we have. I think it's a good conversation to be having with your friends and family. So hopefully, you can take something out of this. I don't know, I really do. I hope so. Hearing other people talk about it's important. We're gonna have Michael. What you're gonna hear first is, what are you gonna lay out first? The timeline.
Yeah. So okay, we do this segment on this show, which will appear in the regular kind of when we do the show more regularly, called "Fuck Up of the Week," where we go over just something we messed up that week. And this week, I have a fuck up of the week, which is that when we recorded this episode that you're about to listen to yesterday, I was sitting way too close to my mic for some of it, and I had done a little bit of research and got a timeline put together for what happened at the Capitol. And during the section where I was reading you guys that timeline, so we kind of see point by point what happened, I was sitting way too close to the mic and it's just unusable. So I re-recorded that part. So it's mostly the same, but that, you'll notice the difference in audio quality. Mm-hmm. So sorry about that when it's fuzzy in places where it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But otherwise, it'll just be spliced in.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be great. I trust you.
Oh God, no, I'm so bad at this.
Don't delete any audio files.
No, I no more deleting audio files. Oh man.
Oh, that's all right. All righty then. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right. So, and enjoy this conversation that we have with Miss Nadia. All righty.
Yeah.
Long live and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
That's what
it
is.
All right, enjoy, guys.
I'm just curious about the backstory.
We went to high school together in Florida. Zochi's also a dancer. Nadia's also a dancer. That's where I met Nadia. Was at dance class in college.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And so yeah, we've just known each other since like.
Yeah.
Just since high school. So.
A while ago. It was my freshman year because we had gone to the same studio, and then I started going to Blake High School in Florida. And he was already going there, And actually, to be honest, I didn't even like Michael when I first met him, like at all.
Totally
Like, I couldn't
understandable.
stand his ass. And then I got to know him, and we became best friends like pretty quickly.
Oh, cute. I love it. I love it. I just realized I don't think I turned my phone off. Let me do that too.
Oh, I should also do that.
So Florida, yeah. I mean, I have a lot of, my dad is in Florida, and I have one of my best friends was a dancer in Florida too.
Oh.
So
People love Florida. I don't get it. Right?
I love Miami. I love certain parts of Miami. You know,
Yeah.
certain
Party culture.
aspects of Miami. Yeah, that's fun, but you know.
I forgot my tea. I made water instead. Okay, also, by the way, guys, I just found out about the Georgia phone call today. Like, I didn't know that shit. Like, I listened to it too. I listened to the whole thing.
The hour-long, like, insanely illegal pressuring situation. Yeah.
He literally sounded like if Seth MacFarlane wrote like a mobster character, where he's like, "Come on, just give it to me, fellas. It's all right. You can find me 11,000 votes." Crazy. Like,
oh my god.
Just insane.
I know.
Oh my god, dude, that's what I was watching on Seth Meyers, and the thing is he was saying all the shit I was thinking. You know what I mean? Like first of all, one of the first things that he said that was hilarious was when they're listening to this call, all the other people on the other line, like, what are they doing? You know, like, it's like your grandpa, you just let him rant on the phone or whatever while you're doing your shit. And I literally was thinking yesterday,
they're like, get the recording equipment.
I would literally be like, if I was on that call, I'd be there, speakerphone, and just be rolling my eyes like, there this guy goes again, like every single time. I thought that was hilarious, but
it's wild.
That literally blew my mind. Like,
it was crazy. Well, thank God we wrapped up, Georgia, and now the Dems have the executive, the House, and the Senate. So hopefully we can actually, depending on if they actually keep their word and do all the shit that they say they're going to do when they're not in power,
make progress,
get some stuff done. But let's get to the awfulness at hand.
Yay!
So we're recording this on January 7th.
You're a little buzzy, Michael.
I'm a little buzzy. Audio-wise?
Yeah, a little.
Oh.
But it sounds better on your end, maybe once you do it all.
Yeah, I don't know. Or if you back off, I don't know. I'm trying to like.
All right, how's it now?
It's better, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, you guys sound clear, and that's what's important anyway. So.
Period. Anyway. So what happened January 6th?
So Trump supporters started gathering at around 6 a.m. A month before, a little bit less. Trump tweeted, "A big protest in D.C. on January 6th. Be there, be wild." At 10 a.m., Trump's Save America rally officially began. Eric, Don Jr., and Giuliani were some of the openers. At noon, Trump spoke, and he spoke for about an hour, and he said, "And after this, we're going to walk down there, and I'll be there with you." And the plan was basically to cheer on Republicans who supported Trump's claims that the election was fraudulent. At 1 p.m., lawmakers were gathering in a joint session to count the Electoral College votes and officially, declare that Biden had won. Thousands of people had by this point walked down and were outside the Capitol. And there were all these bleachers set up for the inauguration, where all the important people are going to kind of stand on the thing and look out. And protesters had started climbing up onto those in order to get up onto the proscenium at the Capitol. At 1:10, the protest had turned into a full-on riot, and they were fighting with Capitol Police on the steps to try and make their way up. At 1:26, the Capitol Police ordered evacuation of nearby buildings. And by this point, the rioters had started actually breaking into the Capitol. They smashed in windows and were climbing through. There was footage that I saw of a couple of people on those scaffoldings that window washers use, those kind of scaffoldings on cables, and they were pulling themselves up, I guess trying to get in from higher story windows or up onto the roof. By 1:33, rioters were crossing the chamber that separates the House and the Senate. At 1:40, D.C. Mayor Bowser ordered a citywide 6 p.m. curfew and was also trying to call in National Guard, although there was problems with that. At 1:46, a Democratic representative, Luria from Virginia, tweeted that she was being evacuated and that she heard multiple gunshots outside. At 2:11, rioters broke police lines on the west side of the Capitol, scaling walls moments later. At 2:22, the vice president was escorted out of the Senate chamber. At 2:24, Trump tweeted, "Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done." Basically saying that he wanted Pence to just overturn democracy for him. At 2:38, Trump tweeted that his supporters should support Capitol Police and, quote, "stay peaceful." Now, it's worth noting by this point that things were very much not peaceful already. So saying, and it was clear on the news, the footage was right there of them fighting with police, breaking in, throwing shit. So saying stay peaceful is kind of too little too late at this point. At 2:39, rioters were breaking in windows into the actual assembly room in the Capitol building, and there's a lot of photos and a little bit of footage of Secret Service with their guns drawn as they try to break down the doors basically to get to congressmen. And there are reports of reporters saying they heard people saying let's get them, basically saying let's go get senators. And it's not clear whether the intent was to kidnap them or murder them or try and force them to do away with democracy. But either way, it was an insurrection, and it was an attempted coup. At 2:44, there were shots fired in the Senate chamber. At 2:53, another representative tweeted that the House chamber was being evacuated, and representatives were being given escape hoods with respirators, which they conceal your identity and they keep you safe from gas or whatever. At 3:03, rioters were now on the Senate floor. And there's a few photos and that have become kind of famous now of people sitting in the president of the Senate's seat, taking selfies, hanging on the walls, and just having a grand old time in their little cosplay outfits in there. At 3:13, Trump tweeted, "Remain peaceful, no violence. We are the party of law and order. Respect those in blue," etc. At 3:34, a woman who was an Air Force veteran who was one of the rioters who broke into the Capitol was shot by police in the Capitol building. She later died. At 3:51, the D.C. National Guard, about 1,100 troops, were mobilized to support the cops. At 4:05, congressional correspondent tweeted that Congress people were being evacuated. 4:17, Trump tweeted in a video, which was then played on the news, "We had an election stolen from us. You have to go home now, and we love you. You're very special. I know how you feel." After that, Twitter banned Trump for 12 hours. Now, on the news, they mentioned being reticent to play that clip because of the fact that he doubled down on the idea that the election was stolen and, the support that he was showing these violent insurrectionists. But they decided to play it because they listened to him and he was saying to go home. After that, the 6 p.m. curfew went into effect. Unlike with the Black Lives Matter protest, the curfew didn't seem to signal to the police that it was time to abuse people. There were many arrests made at this point. And then at 8 p.m., Congress reconvened to resume counting electoral college votes and officially, recognize Biden as the president-elect. In terms of deaths, there was a misreported death that a cop had been killed. There were several cops who were hospitalized. 56 were injured. One was snatched into a crowd and beaten and tased by the crowd. They were attacking the cops with metal pipes and discharging chemical irritants, and it was just crazy.
Yeah, because the cops are traitors, supposedly.
Right, and that's.
However, Blue Lives Matter.
That's what's interesting is that it's you literally, there was a photo of someone using a Blue Lives Matter flag to hit a police officer, which is really funny.
That's just
yeah, it was really crazy. And the cop thing is really interesting because on one sense, there are some of them who I would say I support because they're dealing with insurrectionists and extremists. You could literally call these people terrorists.
Absolutely.
But then there are also cops who move barricades to let them in. And of course, all the usual stuff is said about we're going to have an investigation into that. But I mean,
yeah.
I mean, there's so many layers of problematicness going on, and I mean, there's the question of the individual cops and their responses, like what you're talking about, where cops are taking selfies with, you know, with these, you know, rioters in, you know, in the Capitol building, where they're, like you said, like letting them in. I mean, I saw one video with like all these rioters rushing at the Capitol building, and there was one cop kind of like running along with them and like literally waving his hand. You know, I saw the footage where I don't know if you follow Sean King on Instagram. I mean, he is definitely someone to watch in terms of the information and, you know, sharing. Sean King, SHAUN.
Okay.
And there was one video where when they first broke through the barracks, and there were all these cops kind of like having conversations with them, you know, like, hey, buddy. And then the barracks, you know, open and people come in, and, you know, Sean King had said, you know, that the cops had opened the barracks. Now, let's just take a moment and be, you know, just like devil's advocate, you know, even if, because there was a mob, right? And I think in that one particular video, there were maybe 5 or 6 cops. So let's just say there's a mob, and, you know, because the cops, sure, the barricade opened and the cops turned around and they followed them. You know, maybe they didn't open it physically themselves, but, you know, and they were definitely overwrought. It was definitely an overwhelming situation, but nonetheless, you can see in their demeanor, there was not that aggression that you get with people of color. And I think that is the kind of fundamental baseline that you can see throughout all of these videos and all of these interactions. There isn't that, you know, that snap of aggression that is trained into these people. You know, these are, you can say like, yeah, there aren't good cops and bad cops, but it is a systematic learned behavior to react to people of color with that kind of, you know, intensity, aggression, anxiety, you could say, you know, and there wasn't that. And then there was the opposite of that in some cases. Sure. What I was talking about, where they're running across the street and there's like literally this cop waving his arm like, this is the way, right? Which is insane, you know. So it's, I think for me, that's like, if you look at that deep seed, that's where you really see it, you know. And that response of aggression, you know, it happens on the personal level, and it also happens on the systematic level, where they weren't prepared. They didn't call the National Guard in, you know, like they would have.
No, right, they absolutely would have. If it was Black Lives Matter, they would have from the beginning had armored cars out there. They would have had a line already set up. They would have been prepared.
Before the protest even begins, everybody's already ready, you know? And just ridiculous. It's so bizarre.
And, you know, I mean, one thing that's really important to think about, it's like, you know, they're following social media. You know, they know that this is what's happening. Going on. That's how they find out about other terrorist attacks, because this was a domestic terrorist attack.
On that note, I also want to mention there was a car on the Capitol grounds with a cooler of gasoline bombs and a long gun in it.
Hold on, Michael. You get too close to the mic and I can't hear you. You buzz out. Sorry. Totally.
Yeah. Okay. I picked up the gist, though. We picked up the gist. Yeah. There was a lot of crap.
Okay, so you said something about gasoline and
there was a gasoline bomb in a car that they found. There were 4 people arrested with pistols without a license and large ammo magazines. There was 1 person arrested with a semi-automatic rifle and 11 Molotov cocktails on him, and they found 2 pipe bombs at the DNC and RNC.
Yeah. Right. I also want to mention there's one video, and I think it was on Sean King's Instagram, where they did a zoom in on one of the people who actually made it to the floor, and he was dressed in like militia-esque, you know, gear, and he had zip ties on his belt, like 100%. You know, this was they were planning on my brain just shut down because I'm looking at these pictures.
Sorry, I'm showing you guys some pictures while you please just
yeah. No, they were, but 100% they were planning. At least some of these people were planning on kidnapping. You know, I mean, this is and the fact that the media isn't, you know, across the board calling this a terrorist action is also another display of.
To be fair, this is probably the most accurate reporting I've seen from mainstream media
100
in a long time. Like where they were, and honestly, the situation was so blatant that for the first time you have, you know, people on both sides of the aisle calling a spade, and that doesn't tend to happen. But luckily,
absolutely.
I can't even. I don't even understand how it got this far. Like it obviously, had it been anyone else or people of color protesting anything, you know, it wouldn't have ever gotten this far. Like ever.
Of course not.
No.
And it's like, okay, but people want to deny that and say that America is not racist. Sis, it's right in front of you. We are hella fucking racist. Our system is racist. Yeah. You know, and if you can't accept that, then you're living in your own damn delusion. You need to wake up. And it's sad because there's a lot of people like that out here.
I do think, like, to what Michael is saying, I do think, and we see it in the response of, you know, the media, and I agree with you. There is because this is so undeniable. Like, it's so blatant.
Yeah.
And no pun, it's so black and white, you know, literally. In terms of the imbalance of response. You know, I think that nobody can stand up and deny it at this point. And yeah, there is definitely a more clear response in reporting, as well as, you know, some political responses as well, or a lot of political responses as well. And I mean, I do all of this, like, as much as we're starting this and there's so much frustration and so much pain and so much, you know, like anger about the situation. I do genuinely think that there is no coming back from this. Like, there's no denying after this event that the system is set up to respond differently to people of color than they are to white people.
100%.
You know, people could have found ways to deny that before yesterday, and I don't think that that's possible now. You know?
Well, it's also worth noting that, I mean, as well as, so there's obviously the race element where it's the response by police is vastly different. And there's kind of two ways of looking at that, where on one end, they should have been more forceful with this crowd. But also we don't really want them to do what they did at Black Lives Matter. We don't want them to do that to anybody the way we want them to really, in anything, we want the reverse. We want the restraint they showed today to be the restraint they show to everyone. Now, the restraint they showed today would not extend to people that are literally breaking into the Capitol building. You're on the grounds, you're yelling, you're screaming, you got a sign, whatever. You're literally breaking in with a gun to try and get some Congress people. Fuck them. That's a suicide mission. You know what you're doing. You know, or arrests. I'm obviously pro arresting people rather than killing someone and creating a right-wing martyr. We don't need that. But it is also worth noting that Trump encouraged this. He claims that he was on board with calling the National Guard, but people who were in the room with him who have since resigned. A lot of people resigned today, actually. The Capitol Police Chief, the Senate Sergeant-at-Arms, the House Sergeant-at-Arms, and a bunch of White House advisors. And a lot of those White House advisors said that Trump liked what he was seeing on the news and therefore didn't call the National Guard and never actually made the call. Pence finally did.
Pence did finally make the call.
And when you think about what that means,
such a narcissist.
It means we were watching an attempted coup. And it basically means that he was going, okay, well, let's see. And if a bunch of Congress people have been killed and they've been, you know, basically if the mob had been better at what they were trying to do, he would have just gone with that and taken the win. And in a way, it's like, I guess we can take this as a victory and a kind of, you know, the fact that it's bringing people together, that you've got people on both sides of the aisle who felt that their lives were threatened. So now they're like, no, we want democracy. Fuck this banana republic thing.
Yeah,
But it's also very scary that it got as close as it did.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, and I think, because you use the word the restraint, the response of restraint, and I think, I mean, there's this particular statement that's going around saying we're not asking for you to treat them the way that you treated us, for you to shoot them the way that you treated us. We're asking you for you not to shoot us
Yeah.
like you didn't shoot them. But I think it's really important to note that their restraint, a lot, there is a level of their restraint that also is connected to their support.
Yes.
Because we know that
Absolutely.
there is, right? So we know that there is a insidious aspect of systematic, decades and centuries long connection, not even connection, but root in law enforcement in white supremacy. So
Yeah,
like
undeniably.
the distinction, right? So I think looking at those two aspects, looking at the fact that the president didn't act because he wanted to see, because he welcomed it, and also looking at the fact that there were individuals, we know there were individuals in law enforcement who were part of this quote unquote reaction, quote unquote, restrained reaction, who were in support.
Well, not even reaction. I mean, I would have to assume that as chaotic as this was, that there was more planning involved than we would be aware of by watching the news.
100%.
Just kind of, okay, let me put myself into Trump's head. If I was orchestrating a huge thing like this and I was trying to push that the election was fraudulent, I'd have people out there providing materials, connecting different groups, especially within law enforcement. And that's kind of scary too.
Right. I don't know if you guys have seen the meme going, or not the meme, but the meme going around saying like, why are you asking like, where were the police? It's like, when Miley is in the house, like, are you asking where Hannah Montana is? Like, it's the same thing. Like,
It is.
it's the same thing. And I'm not, I mean, I don't know personally the depth of what white supremacy's roots are in, in the police system. Like, I don't know personally those details, but and this leads us to the whole conversation about defunding the police, because the system is broken. And yesterday, on top of it being a coup on behalf of the president, it's also a display of white supremacy within the system, and what is to be done about that other than to dismantle the system,
And that's hard.
It's hard. I mean, I have to say, in my personal opinion, defund the police, it's a bit of a branding issue because a lot of people don't respond well to that. It's a clear and aggressive statement.
Well, I think police keep me safe. Defund, then there's just going to be no police. Then who do I call when something happens? It sends a mixed message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It is what we want to do. We want to defund the police, and we want to reallocate funds, and I think that a lot of people lose that message in that blatant statement of defunding the police. And I understand that, right when we came out of the gate, in May, after the murder of George Floyd, it had to be a strong, swift statement. Mm-hmm. But I think in some ways that's hurt the movement. That's my personal opinion, because, and I'm also, I'm a very kind of balanced person. And I think that it's important to really focus on the fact that we are trying to support the community through other means, through, mental health professionals, through local, people who know the people that you're dealing with, that need to be supported,
100%.
So yeah, I don't know. I do struggle with the phrasing of that movement, you
It's
know.
funny. Xochi and I were having a similar conversation where Xochi, you were saying that you were explaining Black Lives Matter to someone who had the All Lives Matter thing, and you want to talk about what you had talked about there?
Yeah, so I was speaking to this one coworker of mine, and she's older. She's in her late 40s, maybe early 50s, and she was saying that she goes, "Well, I think all lives matter," and I was like, well, yeah, I mean, all lives matter. I mean, that's a given. I'm like, but Black Lives Matter is not only Black Lives Matter. I'm like, it's Black Lives Matter too. I'm like, the two is heavily implied there because who who thinks, except for like the Nazis, you know, like that someone's life is not as valuable as theirs. That is not the message that is getting across, you know. And I told her, when you are you're taking away from the point when you're saying all lives matter, Black Lives Matter. Oh yeah, but all lives matter. Well, duh. I mean, that's not how it works. So I had to go in and explain to her, like, I told her, I'm like, you need to research on your own and talk to people from other places, other backgrounds, because, you know, that's the only way you're going to understand what Black Lives Matter means. And there's a lot of like, first of all, there's a lot of misinformation in the media, so people aren't getting the true message of the especially with the George Floyd protests. When the riots started happening, everyone made it just about the riots. No one talked about the peaceful protesters that were standing out there playing their damn violins for Elijah McCain.
And you can blame the news for that.
And getting 100%. Fucking tear gassed, bro. Yeah, exactly. Right. And like this older lady, she doesn't have any social media. She's like me, but doesn't have any social media. But it's also like when you're not getting information from other sources, you're not getting the full picture. You're only seeing your perspective, and you're not understanding that movement's perspective. Like, you know, it's a 100%. Civil rights movement, you know, and we're still doing this in 2021 now, you know, that will never end. And what I told her is like, this is stuff that's been happening for a long time. And I mean, since the beginning of this country, because that's how our country was set up. It was not set up for people of color to be at the top or succeed. That's not how it was made. Okay. Like, and I told her this has been happening for a long time. Now people are bringing attention to it. And she said to me, you know, I get upset that people say Black Lives Matter because, you know, no one made a big deal about this person, this Latino kid that got shot down the street. And I said, because nobody's saying Latino lives matter. The Latinos aren't getting together and organizing and saying, hey, bitch, we matter. No, I said, Black people said, come on, this is enough. Enough is enough. And they are tired of it. And people of color are tired of it. And I said to her, Black Lives Matter works for everybody. You know, not just Black lives. I'm like, all people of color fit into, that phrasing, Black Lives Matter.
That phrasing where you talked about the implied too. I was thinking about that a lot today. Because it doesn't, first of all, it's having to say Black Lives Matter too, having to say that you're already bending over backwards a little bit for white fragility. You're going, Black Lives Matter too, not just matter, not that yours don't matter, they just matter as much as yours.
As well as.
And in one say, I'm like, one, Black Lives Matter looks better on a t-shirt, just that phrase, which is important for branding. And also bending over for white fragility seems, it's a little gross.
It's like,
but at the same time, that's who you really need the message to get to, because POCs already kind of know. And so really what you're doing is you're hoping that suburban white people get on board so that they can help you change legislation. And so
now
part of me is like,
go on.
Cool, like how much like of the all lives matter people, how many of them wouldn't have that argument if it was called Black Lives Matter too?
Exactly.
And I honestly, I don't know.
So you're bringing up a point, and I think the placating to white fragility is counterproductive.
It's a problem.
It's a problem. So, you know, I think that the confusion, quote unquote, by people of privilege with the statement Black Lives Matter is an important thing.
Right.
Because that brings up, okay, look, the
Why do you
fact
feel
that
threatened?
Why do you feel uncomfortable?
threatened, the
Right.
fact that you don't understand the statement, not from a place of aggression, but like the fact that you don't understand the statement informs me that you may be coming from a place of privilege. Informs me that you are not assuming that Black Lives Matter.
Right. You're assuming that means that, wait, so does my life not matter? And it's like, no one said that.
Exactly. No one said that.
Nobody said that. Right. What we're saying is, it is within a historical context. Black lives have not mattered.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are saying now that Black lives matter.
Yeah.
And I think the two, or the also, or whatever, I think that, other than the defund the police, because I think there's important information in what that looks like.
Yeah.
That defund the police as a statement can mislead, can be misleading about. But with Black Lives Matter, it brings up, and you know what? Maybe defund the police, maybe that brings up that question too. Maybe if you're not looking to understand it, then that is an implication of your privilege and something that needs to be addressed.
It absolutely is. And this is what I was thinking about is, and I don't really know, and I'm not sure if there's even a way to measure it, but the people who aren't getting the message right now, you go, okay, well, the fact that they're feeling threatened and they're not getting the message just shows how blind they are. But can we do without them? And I honestly don't know, because generally they're the people with the money. And it's kind of that thing. It's funny. There's a J. Cole lyric where a rapper named No Name called out a bunch of rappers where she was like, during the Black Lives Matter protests in the summer, where she was like, hey, all you guys, literally all your money is made off of talking about these issues. Where the fuck is your fundraising? Like, what are you guys doing? And J. Cole did a song about it. And one of the things he said was, what's the point of preaching to only those who already believe what you believe? And so, and that kind of has stuck with me. And that's something where it's like, again, not that we should muddy our message, that we should muddy messaging to fit people who are blind, but also like, if we're only talking to people who are already woke,
and
that's I think where I worry.
Right. I think, the moments where that person, your friend, ask that question, that is such an important opportunity. And it's kind of like I'm glad you asked that. It's difficult for me to react that way or to respond that way, because when somebody gets all like all lives matter with me, I exactly like but I think if it's in you, and I don't think it needs to be in everybody to have patience with that. But if it is in you to have patience with that and be like, you know what, I'm glad you asked that question. Yeah. Because this person needs to be informed. And actually, this person is asking to be informed. So, and at the end of the day, too, it's not everybody's job to do that.
Right.
It's not everyone's job to do that. If you have it in you, especially if you are not a person of color, and or if you have family members who you have to have these conversations with, or have the pained opportunity to have these conversations with, but
and she's like she's a Latina, like, I mean, grew up in the ghetto, and like, and at one point she said to me, I'm sorry, but Black people haven't been through as much as, and I was like, I really didn't respond to that comment. I didn't even say anything, but I did patiently explain to her, like,
slavery.
Kind of told her, well, but I didn't want to bring that up, because I didn't want to hear the kind of argument she had against that, because I knew it was going to be ridiculous. But the moment that she said to me, it was like, all lives matter, like, why do you just say Black Lives Matter? And why? She goes, I never see it say only or two, it just says Black Lives Matter. And then I kind of stopped for a minute and was like, how do I start? And I did my best that I could to explain it. And I told her, look, I said, at first I was saying, yeah, Black Lives Matter, but all lives matter. And then I realized how wrong that was. And I, talked to my friend Batania about it. And I like was seeing all these things. I was researching stuff because I was like, what the hell is any of this and what's going on? And I educated myself, and now it's like, okay, this is a movement. Like, this is something you're either with or you're not. Do Black Lives Matter, yes or no? That's it. And that should be your answer. Like, nothing else. Not, oh, Black Lives Matter, but no, it's not Black Lives Matter. It's Black Lives Matter. And that's all.
Period.
And this whole period, like, done deal. I love Michael Che, how he has his like stand up, and he's like, I love how we're having this conversation where it's like, the Black Lives matter.
Just matter.
Like,
just matters.
Just matter. Not like are really important.
Yeah.
Just matter. But this all like this leads to like a really important segue because or some really important thing to focus on, which is this whole fear of, wait, I'm struggling too. And there are a lot of Trump supporters. There are a lot of underprivileged Trump supporters, in the middle of this country who are feeling that.
I'm assuming that there were not a lot of rich people scaling the walls of the Capitol.
No,
like
100%.
Or yesterday, sorry.
Or educated for that matter.
Right.
But and you know what? First of all, I have to take that back because I'm laughing at lack of education, and that is a big problem. Like that is.
That's why they feel disenfranchised, because they've been Cousin Eddie from Christmas Vacation for fucking decades.
Right.
Where we've just been like, y'all ain't bread, fucks with your, plaid and hunting, whatever.
I finally watched that movie this year. Side note.
It's overrated, but yeah.
But the important. This is where the ball in the middle of the ball joint comes in, because the point is, when you lift up one group that is disenfranchised, when you lift up people who need to be lifted up, we're all lifted up. And that, I think, needs to be the core of any of these conversations, so disenfranchised,
so does it come down just to scarcity? Because we're so capitalist, we view everything in terms of scarcity. So, these people are being empowered. So there's not enough power to go around, when power is limitless. It doesn't work like that.
Too, we are lacking empathy as a whole, as a society. We're not conscious of, we're not mindful, we're not mindful of each other. And I think that's why we have the problems that we have, especially when people say, well, I'm struggling too. No, empathy is, I feel your struggle. Let me help you, or let me be there for you. Let me, bring you up. Like you're saying, build you up. And then we can all move forward together. And we are lacking, big time lacking, any understanding of empathy for each other. And that's just, it's a lot.
How do we address that? How do we get past how angry we are with everyone yesterday and figure out how to make them feel like they're in the fold?
I think a big
except for the racists, because
no, not except for there's too many racists. You can't discount them. Look at after apartheid. Nelson Mandela was like, we need to figure out how to get people together. If we just
because you're right.
If we count people out, we're going to have a civil war in the next century.
You're right, because racism is not innate in a human being.
It's learned.
Racism is learned, and it is fueled by that feeling of otherness. It is fueled by that feeling of, I don't have mine and they're coming to get mine over, so we build a wall. And the thing is, because when you were talking, and I don't even know where I'm going, but the thing that came to my mind is empathy. There is a level of privilege in, it's not to say that you can't have empathy when you come from nothing, but you and I know that empathy comes very easy to me, but I've been born into a fair bit of privilege, a fair bit. My parents were immigrants, and they did build up their, they didn't come from nothing, but they did have to build up their, you know, their lives and pave the way. But, you know, I think, how do we hand, you know, space for people, you know, who come from less? How do we give that gift of empathy to people? You know, that is, to me, I think that's an ultimate question in the whole.
I think one of the things is listening to each other, and everyone's so caught up on being right or being on the right side of things that we forget to actually listen to each side. When I research and do all this crap, I was reading up what the Republicans had to say about it and what everyone had to say about it, because from their point of view, they feel like they are not wrong. And that's where we have to learn how to shift each other's point of view into seeing what really is happening, you know, and that's the big thing with people that are more conservative. They're conservative. They want to keep their ways, and they have a problem listening, even listening to anyone that has an idea that's different. All of a sudden, you're crazy, you're dumb, you're, you know, unqualified, whatever.
Slippery slope. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
So I think we need to take more time to do that for each other, you know.
Right. I 100% agree. I think that if we want that, if we want people to hear us and to understand us, if that's what I want, I have to give that. Like, that is just the science of human nature. And, you know, it's difficult. And once again, I don't think it's everybody's job. If you are dealing with, you know, the weight of trauma and, you know, from your racial experience, then you don't have to extend that empathy. You know, you need to heal, you need to take care of yourself, you know.
Right.
But if it is in you to sit down across the chair, you know, in a chair across from somebody and be like, why does this matter to you? Why do you feel this way? Like, I want to understand, because you're hurting. You've made it really clear that you're hurting in ways that maybe that I wouldn't. But, you know, what do you want that you're not getting? You know, and how can we, not only how can we as a system support everybody, but also how can we let them know, like, look, we're supporting you, you will be supported here. You know, my only hope is that as we move into this new administration, and, you know, as we've turned the Senate, that we can reach out to people who feel disenfranchised, you know, that they can know that these changes are going to affect them in a positive way. Like, there's a disconnect there that I don't quite understand, you know, that they don't see that Mitch McConnell only wanting to give you $600, like, that, you know, that is problematic for you. Like, you know, I'm not sure how we do that, but that's my hope this year, that happens.
And I can't wait to be disappointed and, like, mad at the Democratic Party. I'm so and regular Republicans, to be arguing with regular Republicans again. Oh my God, I can't wait. Like, let's just get past the next 2 weeks.
Dude, Trump supporters are a special breed of Republicans. Like, very special. I mean,
they are. But I you know, I appreciate this conversation because they are special.
You're very special. We love you very much.
They're leaders, but they're also, you know, we love you very much.
Fucking ridiculous.
Good God, what the? But also, you know, it's important to get to the root, and I think that's what we've really kind of touched on today. Like, it's really important to get to the root of, these people are far gone. There are a lot of people who are so spun in their sickness that we can't get to them. But the root is, you know, why are you hurting? How can everybody be helped in this country?
Exactly. And the big thing too is, like, the biggest thing in this whole picture is, like, we just all want to be treated the same. Like, that's all we're asking for. Like, we just all want equal treatment and, you know, equal opportunities in this world. It's as simple as that. But for some reason, it's really hard for us to do.
Well,
right
I
now.
think we all want to be treated the same, but we're being raised in a capitalist society that tells us it's
Yeah.
about more. So that's the problem. I
Mm.
think that fundamentally as humans,
Mm-hmm.
our nature is to want to be treated the same, but I think that the society that we've been bred in and also co-bred,
Mm-hmm.
is feeding this, more than the next guy narrative. Maybe that's part
Absolutely.
of human nature as well, just that whatever that competitive nature is that has created capitalism. But you know i I think we do want to be all want to be treated the same, but there is this fundamental din over the societal norm that says no, it's not about being treated equally. I have to be better than you.
Right.
I
It's
have to have
greed.
more than you. Yeah.
Greed and pride, they come into the picture, and
Right.
Mm.
money is power, right? We've been hearing that since the beginning of time. So it's just a system that was built this way, and we're just living in it. And we had to figure out how to change it, how to make changes so that everyone can benefit from it, not just the Democrats or just the Republic or just the Trump supporters. No, all of us can get a little piece of that pie.
Right. Right. And I think, and I know that we're running late, but I think that it really comes down to, and this is such a like a woo woo kind of, but it really comes down to your own personal work. Like,
Yeah.
Am I willing to give what I have? Am I willing to be a part of movements that are about sharing? Am I willing
No,
to,
mine.
mine? Am I willing to have the courage to not give in to that story that there's enough for everybody? There's enough success for everybody. I mean,
Yeah,
I
there
know,
is.
right? I mean, I know even as an artist, as an entertainer, there's this like thing in your head that's like, oh, I have to be Beyonce or I'm nothing, And
Yeah,
it's like, no, you can be who you are and you can have what, is enough for you, and you can feed yourself and you can support others in feeding themselves and their
exactly.
successes, and that can be very difficult, but I think that that's fundamentally what we're talking about here.
Yeah, there is enough for everyone.
Of
There is
course.
enough for everyone. It's just that we've been taught that everything, like you were saying earlier, Michael, that everything's scarce, and it's
Right.
not that way at all.
Right.
I mean, well,
Right.
we created it that way, but
Mm.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
reality, look, we're always wanting more, needing more, thinking this is more and more and more, more. But
Right.
strip it down, we don't need all this shit. We don't need
Right.
all this materialistic stuff. You don't need to have a freaking 3-bedroom apartment that's like $6,000 a month, in the middle on the beach or something. That's not a necessity. But those are the kind of goals people put in their mind.
Right.
And they go from that,
Right. Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. And
It's a
I
shit
think
show.
it's a shit show, but I do think that it's an inside job. I think that everything is an inside job, everything's an
Yeah,
inside job. You work on,
internal.
we work on ourselves, and we
Exactly.
work on, yeah,
That's a big
yeah,
thing.
we
Like,
work on
that's
that
why,
scarcity mentality within ourselves,
Mm.
yeah,
know?
that's my big
Yeah.
mentality too, is like, I take care of myself and then I can take care of others, kind of thing. And when you take care of others, you're taking care of a lot, you're doing a lot for everybody and everything, as much as you may or may not know.
Right. I
I
always
think it's
say,
in,
like, go
go
on,
ahead.
go on.
No, go
Well,
ahead.
I always say that, I don't want, like, I want my cup has to run
Overflow.
over.
Yeah.
Overflow, like, there's a spiritual teacher, God, I don't know if it was Lisa Nichols or Ian Van Zant, but I think it was Lisa Nichols who said, I'm gonna feed you from my saucer. Like, I need to fill my cup up. Like, I'm gonna share from my saucer. So like but not in terms of like having mine, but taking care of myself, feeding myself, and knowing that will run over, that will spill over, right? But yeah.
Always. Absolutely. Michael, what do you have to say? Come on, you've been quiet for a hot minute.
No, this is all great stuff. I 100% agree. It's like, it's hard because it the only answer that seems to kind of make any sense is just so simple, where it's like, you know, the only change comes from the inside, and then you have to kind of from the inside out. But it's kind of, you know, it's simple and then it's not, and then it is and it's not.
It's all the things
that's
at the same time.
That's how everything is. You know, we
Right.
can always strip it down to the core. What's the simplest thing? Like everything you can strip down to the simplest thing, but there's so many complex factors in everything. And
I
you
think,
know, go ahead.
Go on. Well, I think that if we don't heal things from all, you know, aspects, it's like we got to do our job. You know, we're healing it systematically, we're healing individually, we're healing in our community. So
I think the big word too that like people have to learn and like carry on daily is mindfulness. That stops a lot of the bad shit right there. Like just being mindful of your actions.
That's a problem because the whole capitalist thing, there's really strong motivator to not be mindful, because not being mindful means that you're not coping with your anxiety. You're treating it with everything, you know, you name it: food, drink, drugs, clothes,
money,
you know, money, your relationships with people, your career, everything. You're just trying to fill that hole. And that's kind of that whole thing relies on like, let me try and stop myself from having like a full thought.
Right.
And that's like our whole thing. So I don't know how I guess it's like the same thing where you just try to, you know, combat that in yourself, and then kind of through that get it to, you know, transfer it. Pay it forward or whatever. I don't know.
Right. Absolutely. Little transfer of energy.
I agree. I think you can't, you know, you can't change one person in a relationship without changing the entire dynamic of the relationship, you know. And I think that is the microcosm of our community and our communities and our society, right? So, you know, I mean, it is a little woo-woo, like, you know, it's just like, but it's also just real. It's real.
It is.
We change the way that we interact. If we change a dynamic with one person who may have been an aggressor, you know, then that resonates.
Yeah, it's the small things. You know, it's the small things that make the big difference, you know. And like I said, mindfulness is a big word in my life, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn. It's crazy. I still like when I think about and look at the pictures, I think about all that, the fact that people were able to do that. Like it's just so bizarre to me. It still doesn't even seem real, you know. It kind of just seems like in a reality somewhere else. Like when I turned on the news yesterday, I was like, I'm watching a damn movie. Like this shit's hilarious.
If it was on a movie or a TV show, I'd be like, this isn't well written. This is bullshit, man.
Exactly. I was saying like this is shit that you see in a crazy ass movie. Like, this doesn't happen in real life. It happened in real life. Welcome 2021. You know?
I know, those are the funniest memes to me, where it was like, damn, 2020 was crazy. 6 days in 2021. There's
people like climbing
in the Chewbacca outfit
shit.
hanging out in the hall of the, you know, fucking Jesus.
I miss social media for the memes, dude. I miss the memes. Send me some memes.
Okay, I'll send you
them over
some
because
good ones. Yeah. Good for
memes.
you though. I mean, I support you on detaching from the hurricane and the, you know,
honestly, you know, it's been the move, because I'm still on social media, mostly because, you know, people like Nadia or whoever, who that's kind of primarily where I talk to people. But the big move has been toilet time. No longer Instagram, it's Duolingo time. So learning a language. So it's like, and like any little time like that, where it's a time where I'd normally be like just scrolling on my phone, I'm like, I'm gonna read something, or just like getting out of the habit of just filling your time with bullshit. And like,
dude, love that. Like it really mindless scrolling is, it's an addiction, dude. I used to be there and be
It is.
like, okay, 10 more minutes, and then 2 hours later, I'm like,
Oh
what the
yeah,
heck happened?
I'll be
Like,
watching a
where's my
movie and then I'm
day?
still like scrolling, and it's like, what am I?
Right.
It's crazy.
Like,
It's
not only can we not pay attention to one thing, like
We're
even if
not
we're
paying
trying
attention
to
to 5 things at once.
exactly, if I'm not paying attention to 5 things at once, like I can't deal with
Okay.
myself.
There's this one comedian who's saying, he's like, it's like trying to find out how many screens I could fit between me and the TV, like the tablet, the iPad, the phone,
Right.
It's
Right.
true. And when I like got off of social media, because I had done it previously where I was off of social media for like a month or so, and I felt really good, like mentally, my health was
Whew.
like pristine,
Nice.
because when you're constantly scrolling and constantly seeing, people of color that are being peaceful, being shot or choked out, or all the awful things that you see on Instagram, seeing that all the time, like, would literally, I am a big softie. I cry about everything. So I would just be sitting there bawling for hours on my phone and just feeling angry. And you're angry too because there's nothing you could do. And you imagine that being you or your friends or someone that you love and care about. And even without that, like, how hurtful for that to happen to another human. Like,
And on the
that's
other
how
end of
people
that,
need to think.
it's either that you're looking at, where it's like the news and social media, showing you what's burning and bleeding because that's what's exciting to look at, and getting in arguments on Twitter because that's how it works.
Yeah, that's fun.
But then on the other side of that, what else are you doing on social media? You're seeing people who look happier than you feel, and you're going, oh, they have a perfect life. I want a life like that. God damn it, I wish I had more money.
And then you
maybe
get
I should be
depressed,
maybe I should close myself down and be a little harsher in the world so I can make more money. And then it's just like,
right. Well, that's like the Social Dilemma, the documentary on Netflix. That
heard about that.
covers all those
haven't watched
points. You gotta
Oh
watch
my
it.
gosh. Yeah, you should watch it. It's tough. It's tough. You're gonna want to shut everything down.
Because the way apps are made, you are the product. If you're not paying for it, you're the product. So they make it so that it's addictive, and your brain, like, the big thing about our brains is it's always wanting its next fix. It likes the reward, when you clean your room, it feels good. You do this and it feels good. So that's exactly how it's like in social media. You get a like and that feels good,
Right.
or whatever kind of reaction, your brain pops off. And shit, that's dangerous. That's pretty scary, the fact that we came this far.
Yeah.
Dude, Black Mirror. Have you guys seen that episode where, like, they got like the things in their eyeballs and they can record everything?
Oh yeah, that one's some of the Black Mirror episodes. Honestly, they're scary because I feel like in a couple of years they'll be cool. We'll be like, remember when we thought it would only get that bad?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, for sure.
Right.
But
I haven't watched any of it because it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know that my nervous system can handle this. Like,
they're okay. They're good.
Yeah.
They're kind of they're
Some of them,
a lot of them are based off of Twilight Zone episodes. They're kind of updated.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's good. I think, like, the whole, when it comes to the social media aspect, like, because you can block people, from seeing
they have
your real life.
Interesting like social commentary in them that But what's also cool is that it's like every episode is a different cast and story. So if you don't like it, you're like, okay, wait 20 minutes and it's something else.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or just go to the next episode.
Or just go to the
yeah.
Keep chasing.
Like, no, I'm
gonna suffer through this.
Exactly.
Oh.
Well, happy 2021.
Yeah, happy 2021.
Happy
I know Zochi, you said you
start.
gotta get going, but
yeah, I gotta go to bed in the next 20 minutes. I gotta work in the morning.
Great to meet you. I've heard so much about you. So
it was nice meeting you. Yeah. This was fun. These are the conversations we need to be having with, like, everybody. If people would listen to each other, maybe we could have, like, a meaningful conversation about our differences.
Yeah.
That's why everybody should listen to Tea with Chi, coming out weekly.
Need I say more?
What's the tea?
I forgot my tea. I forgot my tea. That's a tea. I forgot my tea this week, but I will have it next week. But Michael came in with a tea. He had the little what'd you have? A little Earl Grey moment?
No, that I'd be up all night having a little green tea.
Oh, caffeine, true. Oh, green tea.
Yeah.
Green tea has caffeine, dude.
Yeah, but it's less, like a little bit. Let me live in my illusions.
What you have the most? Alrighty. Alright, guys. Well, it's been fun, but it ain't been real fun. No, I'm just kidding.
It's been all right. It's been a whole lot of all right. What do you do? What do you have to go to do? What do you have to go to do work? What? I can speak words.
I work at a hotel, front desk receptionist. So I wake up at my shift starts at 6. I live like 20 minutes away, but I take forever to get ready. So.
Right. Because you gotta look cute. You gotta look cute from the nose, from like half your nose up.
Exactly. I gotta do them wings and shit.
Yes.
And my hoops, I've been wearing hoops, like big hoop energy on point. Yeah. That's all I gotta say. And everybody knows. So, yeah. It's huge.
It's huge.
It's huge. Everybody knows I have the best hoop in.
Oh, God.
I have big hoop energy. I am that bitch.
Love you. You're very special.
Love you. You're very special.
That's how we're ending that. Love you guys. You're very special.
We love you. You're very special.
And happy 2021.